Welcome back after a pleasant surprise with Zach and Cecilia coming back after a funny disappearance act.
Funny?
Yeah, it seems suspicious. But we've got them back now in their new studio. So good stuff. But before we went for break, we did say that our special guest was in studio and we're just getting ready to get him on set. And he's here, Mr. Anthony Walia, the president-elect's spokesperson. I'm sure most of you already know. So he's here. And it's unscripted, so we are just going to go have a proper discussion. And please stay there. We'll give him a chance to talk about a few issues before we open the phone lines. Because we know you, when phone lines are open, even us don't give us a chance to talk.
Can you imagine?
So we got the feedback. We got the feedback that the callers come in too much. So keep the callers away for a bit. Welcome to Spring TV, sir, and to Morning Daily.
Thank you, guys. We are delighted to be here.
Fantastic.
It's been a long time coming, and we apologize that we haven't been able to make it quite as early as you would have loved for us.
But at least we spoke on the phone pre-election.
Of course.
Yeah, we did speak over the phone.
And I was sitting there and I was hearing you guys talk about the word reconfigure.
Reconfiguration.
So the country has been reconfigured.
Oh, yes.
Then in my mind, I was thinking there's actually another word for reconfiguring. So,
okay.
So I was thinking maybe the country has been recalibrated. So you can either reconfigure
I like that word.
or recalibrate.
I feel you.
It means exactly the same thing. But I think it's also the same thing as kuchinja. Is it the same thing?
Yeah. Well, kuchinja doesn't sound too.
Kuchinja chisungu nangu chivemba.
But
It sounds like change.
Point somewhere.
Kuchinja.
Sounds like change.
Change.
Like it's derived from the word change. And then you just say,
Definitely.
our languages are so lazy sometimes.
Yeah.
We need to find a different word for
Is it just me, or even behind your mask I can see the smile?
Yeah, no, I can see it too.
Right here.
So
Gives it away.
apparently, you don't smile with your lips. You smile with your eyes.
With your
It's true.
eyes.
And your cheeks,
It's
maybe they
true.
play a role as well.
But when people say the eyes actually say what it is, it's true.
Yes.
Those who know how to read eyes,
Yeah.
interesting.
The eyes are the window to the soul.
So you can actually you can actually sort of speak differently with your lips whilst communicating a different message with your eyes. So you can say yes, but rolling your eyes. Yes, get on with it.
Why am I learning these things from you?
No, but good to have you, Mr. Wali, and we'll quickly get into it.
We're happy to be here.
Before we actually bring you on to raise your points or just amplify the points, we carried a story as we started where the headline is "Punish Plunderers of State Resources." This is according to the president-elect. According to Lusaka residents, appealing to the president-elect. So Lusaka residents expressed divergent views to sentiments attributed to President-elect HH, who is quoted as saying he will forgive his political rivals once he takes over government on Tuesday next week.
Did he say that?
He did at his press briefing.
Oh, okay.
But let's listen to listen to that. But also, there's another promise he's made to civil servants, where he's saying that he's assured that he will ensure an independent and professional civil service, which is well remunerated to foster economic prosperity in the country. I won't go into details. We've got the clip, so maybe we see the clip and then we can unpack everything based on these two issues.
There is a massive debate on social media regarding the sentiment that the newly president-elect Hakainde Hichilema gave in his inaugural speech, that he is not in power to arrest those who arrested him and that he has forgiven those who persecuted him. Now, the big question which Zambians are asking is that, are those who have been alleged to have abused authority and stole from the Zambian people going to go scot-free? That is the question, and let's find out from what the Zambian people think.
I think he should arrest them or let them go to court to at least stand and be accountable for what they did.
HH was saying they've stolen the money, so they should bring back the money.
Let the law prevail. Let him just sharpen the laws of this country.
Despite the president forgiving them, but they have to face the law. They have to face the consequences of what they did. So I believe he can forgive them, but justice should also not be forgotten.
The people of Zambia are still asking about the 42 million US dollars fire trucks. They are seeking answers about the 48 houses that up to date do not have an owner. Will Bali fix this? I'm Calvin Kaumbachkenge, S24 News, Lusa.
To those who
The
voted
conversation to
for
have.
other candidates, because this is a democracy, this is competition, this is not war, this is not extermination of others, this is a competition to serve. And we want to recognize the fact that others voted for other candidates. I trust that my colleagues on the left understand what that means. So thank you to President Edgar Lungu. And you will be okay, sir. Do not worry, you will be okay.
Right. So that is the clips, Mr. Walia.
Yeah.
You heard him say, "You be okay, sir." So anyway, maybe you know better, but I think it all came out like the man is safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But based on those two issues,
Yeah.
you've heard from the residents.
Yeah.
What is your take on how this will go now?
So, first and foremost, we want to most sincerely thank the Zambian people because under the most difficult of circumstances, they pitched up, they woke up early, they queued up for long hours on end and made sure that they made a decision on what their next government and their next national leadership should look like. It was a very difficult campaign period for us in the political arena. But we also recognize the responsibility that we had to this country and its people. We needed to go the full length of what was demanded of us in terms of engaging the public and explaining what it is that we intended to do for this country and its people. And obviously, one of those big issues is the fight against corruption, which we are absolutely committed to putting an end to. But the people played their part as well. And we want to assure them that this is your victory. This victory is not for the UPND. This victory is not for the president-elect and those who are around him. We always said the election was for the Zambian people. The victory was to be delivered by the Zambian people. It has not been delivered by the UPND. So our long and enduring commitment still remains and stands to be that this new administration with President-elect Mr. Hichilema at the helm, we fully want to govern for the sole purpose of delivering value, expanded opportunities socially and economically for every citizen in this country. And this is why we've always been very clear that the culture that we all were repulsed by, the culture of political party cadres taking over markets, bus stations, taxi ranks, and mounting political party flags in these public spaces. For us, that is an absolute no-no. We want to return sanity in these public spaces because, again, our point of emphasis is that these various public spaces must work for every citizen. We want to depoliticize and take politics in the manner that these public spaces work. The fight against corruption has always been top of our agenda, and I will tell you why. Corruption in this country has been a $3 billion per annum problem. Per annum, this country loses $3 billion.
That's very worrying.
It's
In
a
fact,
huge,
it's very upsetting.
It's a huge amount, and this is why we were deeply upset. And we were exceedingly upset about the problem because the people who were perpetrating this agenda of grand corruption, much to the disadvantage of you and I and ordinary people, were people who had been elected to serve the national interest. Politicians, they get elected by the people, then they go in government and they start stealing and plundering public resources to the tune of $3 billion per annum.
It's too much.
We always used to give examples of how Mukula revenues went unaccounted for between the period 2014 and 2017, well in excess of 3.25 billion unaccounted for. You all remember that incident where the Chinese authorities declared that they had imported Mukula, I think well in excess of 181 million US dollars, whereas in this country, we declared
we only declared way less. I think it was
much less. Okay, so those revenues essentially went into the pockets of a small group of individuals.
Yeah.
But whilst all of that was taking place, we had no medicines in our hospitals. We had no equipment. We could not afford to employ doctors. We could not afford to employ enough nurses, teachers. We couldn't even afford to pay the pension benefits of those who had served this country and its people diligently over so many years. I like to give personal stories because I am also a victim. My father was a victim. My father died 2 years ago, and at the time of his death, despite having served as a teacher in this country for 32 years, he died without having gotten his pension benefits. So that money is no good to him now, is it?
No.
So how do I even justify to the living, never mind the dead, that there's no money to pay your pension benefits, but there's money to steal on an annual basis?
It's unjustifiable.
We saw the FIC report that came out just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Despite them only having looked at less than 16% of all the suspicious transactions which they needed to look at.
Those were
They,
already...
yes, they still went ahead to tell us that 2.2 billion kwacha was stolen in this country. But whilst we are looking at that figure, what the country and the Zambian people didn't know was that 2.6 billion kwacha in an amount was the amount that should have gone to MOH, because the MOH in the same period was underfunded by 2.6 billion kwacha. So you can see the consequences to ordinary people purely because of this issue of corruption. And this is why I've always said we need to get a good grip on the issue of public corruption, because if we can't sort out this problem, we'll never be able to provide the critical services which ordinary people want. We were moving around in Kanyama, in Chawama, begging the people for votes. But the people from whom we're begging votes, they have no clean running water. They live in squalor, ifishala, bonze, fie umusali, abana taba kumaskuru, abafyashinga bamukupapa. It's a whole mess. So we owe this country better. The president-elect understands that too well. He has no margin to fail. I personally have looked him in the eye that the way I have been speaking for so many years, I have not been speaking because of him, and I've not been speaking because of the party. I have been speaking the way I've been speaking because I am a Zambian. If this country fails because leadership has failed, I and many generations of my family will also inevitably, pay a huge price. So, when the president says, when he says what he said, I think it's important that the people understand the context of that. We have always said that the corruption problem that we see in the country is largely as a result of institutional failure. Okay? This is not an individual issue. This is an issue of what has been a failure of public institutions. Broadly and largely because of the overreach and the override of politicians in the manner that control systems should function in our institutions. So there's a lack of independence, there's been a lack of transparency, there's been a lack and the breakdown of accountability.
That was going to be my next question, actually.
At the FIC, DEC, the police, the Anti-Corruption Commission. So we have always said that in order for us to answer this issue,
also,
including that, in order for yes, of course,
Auditor General.
In order for us to decisively answer this question of corruption, we have to return independence to how these critical institutions of governance work, give them the resources which they need to be able to employ the right kind of personnel, be able to generate the right kind of expertise within these institutions so that they can begin to deal with some of the biggest and complex corruption issues in this country. So when President-elect says to the outgoing President, His Excellency Dr. Edgar Lungu, that you will be all right, we absolutely mean that. And what we mean is that we have no business pursuing an agenda of vendetta.
And just on that one, Mr. Wale, you're talking about understanding the context.
Yes.
And I would say for myself, I would take it that it is not the role of the president-elect to go after an individual.
Of course.
It is the role of the necessary systems put in charge to do their job. And I think that's the clarity most of the Zambians are asking.
You have to remember, if you want to specifically address former heads of state, they are guaranteed immunity by and under our Republican Constitution.
Right.
We are saying we are going to govern by returning to the rule of law and restoring law and order. And if the Constitution demands that a former head of state continues to enjoy immunity by virtue of the position they held, we have to respect that. It is not the job of the executive and the president-elect, Mr. Hichilema, to start even discussing the immunity of a former head of state. For us, we have been given the mandate by the people to rebuild the economy and put this country back onto the path of progress and growth for the benefit of all of us. Conversations of how institutions of governance like the SEC, the FIC, the DEC, and every other institution should function, that should be a matter for their independent functionality.
Yes.
They will tell us how we should help them in the way of supporting their work, give them added capacity in the way of resources, and so on and so forth. So the question of are we going to forgive the people who stole from the Zambian people, that is not a question for the executive. We have institutions of governance who are tasked to respond to critical questions such as that.
I think that answers the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't expect the president-elect himself to go after them, but there are systems, like you're saying, institutions.
No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So based on that clip, people shouldn't, what they want may or will happen, but through the right institutions.
The right channels.
Listen, we owe ourselves and our people justice.
Yeah.
Not just in this generation, but the next generation.
True.
The problem of corruption that we have witnessed in this country, unprecedented over the past 10 years. I have a son who's 4 years old. He will pay a price for that, okay? Because of the problem. How do you explain that every year there's $3 billion to steal, but you can't raise $42 million to service your debt repayment? Now, because we've stopped servicing our public debt, this generation, you and I, we're saying we have no money to pay. Basically, what we're saying is our children should pick up the tab. That is just irresponsible. So this is
very
why
unfair.
Yes, very unfair. And this is why our resolve for us as a new government, and we know that with discussions already underway, in essence, with bilateral partners, with multilateral partners like the IMF and the World Bank to see how the country moves forward. Corruption is a big issue, and we have to deliver the right kind of assurances on the table, not just talking about it, but we have to begin to act, and we have to be seen to be acting on the problem. That is when those around us will begin to believing and trusting that we mean business in and around this issue.
So, there are a lot of constitutional irregularities that add and complement to a lot of the wrongdoings that have been happening in this country. Are we looking to a few changes with regards to the Constitution? Because we can follow the Constitution to the T, but that's when you have all these, what can I say?
Loopholes.
Petitions, because there are so many.
The word is lacuna.
And I will say this, and I've said this for
because
the
it's no longer white and black. There's so many gray areas.
I'll give you an example. I mean, Zambia's system of laws is not broken per se, but the positioning of our moral compass as a country, especially those who are elected to serve the national interest, has not always been in the right place. So I'll give an example.
Okay.
We are talking about the issue of how the outgoing regime borrowed extensively and expensively, right? The Republican Constitution in Articles 63, 114, and 207 makes it very clear how the contraction of public debt should be done. Parliament must approve all contraction of public debt. Okay, and that is according to the 2016 amended Constitution. Right. Very clear. But you find that all loans that were contracted in this country by the outgoing government after 2016 never went to Parliament for approval. So what was the issue? Was the issue that the laws were not sufficient, or that just the moral compass of those who were tasked to superintend over this critical public interest matter just decided they are going to disregard what the Constitution says. This is what we mean when we say we need to return to the rule of law and law and order. If the Constitution requires it, you must obey it. So our system of laws is not the worst in the world, but we need to check our conscience as a country, as a leadership. We must be committed to doing the right thing, even when and where the law seems insufficient. We know what the spirit of the law is in and around the tenure of office of the president. President-elect has spoken about it, that there's no need for any single individual to want to circumvent, intelligently as it might be, the provision of the Constitution to serve for a third term. We know what the spirit of the Constitution is, that any one of us is only entitled to 2 terms in office. Once you've done your bit, you make way for the next person. It is the same way with procurement systems, which are circumvented day in and day out. People single sourcing, giving contracts to their friends, overpricing, public goods and services,
and under delivering even.
Yes, and again, just hurting the wider public interest. And this is why the president-elect has always been emphasizing that his new administration is not in it for what is due to ourselves. This is about the people. And don't think he's joking when he says there will be no VXs for ministers in his new administration. He
I
absolutely
see that.
He absolutely.
But you know what? I can attest to that. He's a seasoned businessman.
And he's a very modest man.
Very. That's what I was going, because I have seen in my other jobs, I used to see him every other day because we're in the same building. And he's very prudent. He looks prudent with his. Even if we know he's a successful businessman. So when I heard that he's telling his next cabinet that we'll keep what we find, I was like, yes. Which leads me to my question, Mr. William. He did say that he's actually challenging us to keep the checklist and tick the boxes. I'm not surprised that he can say, because he's a seasoned businessman, he's a board chair and all that he has been. But I want to focus on the youth vote. I'm sure you follow what goes on social media.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I can only imagine the pressure that you and the president-elect are in, or at least foreseen to be in. I know you can handle that pressure, but how is he going to navigate around the youth and every other priority that is facing? I mean, the country has a debt issue to deal with. I mean, all credit ratings we are in default on all credit ratings across the 3 main credit rating agencies. Our debt on the dollar side is 12 billion. Kwacha side is 100+ billion kwacha. So those are bigger issues than satisfying Yowela, who's on Twitter and is asking questions. Because some of them are already saying, no, Bali, you cannot say you forgive. We want, so how is he going to handle all these priorities? Which ones are the main priorities?
What's P1? What is P1?
After inauguration.
So look, first and foremost, you cannot ignore the role which the young people not only played in delivering a change of government in this country a few days ago, but also the role which the young people need to play in rebuilding this country and rebuilding and delivering on the promise of the Zambia that we want. This election victory is for the young people. And at the heart and center of our national economic development agenda, it will be young people. And we have always said, if we want, and we absolutely need to prepare our young people, men and women, for next generation leadership, we need to be able to invest in education for them, so that we can give them the right kind of skills for the future. We need to invest in entrepreneurship, non-partisan entrepreneurship support, so that young men and women who have the desire, the energy, and the brains to go down the entrepreneurship path are supported the right way with capital requirements and also training to be able to navigate the business environment, and also be given the right kind of business incentives so that their startups can not only survive but also grow into something much bigger, and they can also begin to create employment for other fellow youths. I used to be a Secretary General of the Coffee Belt Students Union, Kopusu, when I was at university a few years ago, and I understand full well the problems that students face, but not just students, but also the young people in general. And one of the things that that I did as a matter of first instance when the election results came through, I had a telephone call with a group of students, and we assured them that we are going to very quickly set up a platform of engagement where we can hear what their issues are, what's there on campus, and what their hopes are for the future.
Yeah.
And we want to extend these platforms of engagement to youths in compounds.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't want them chasing after their government, asking questions, what's available and things of that sort. We want this government to go back to the young people and talk to them and listen to them in the places, in the compounds where they live, where there are no opportunities, where they live in squalor. We have to feel their pain so that we can then begin to reimagine what else can and should be possible for them.
But Mr. I have to say, you're in a very, very tricky position, because everything you're saying right now that I'm hearing, I'm excited. I'm like, yeah, but these are promises we've heard before. You are in a place where young people are not just sitting back and waiting for something to actualize.
Yeah.
They're calling out for it. They're calling out for results. Because earlier, we heard of the Youth Empowerment Fund. We heard that song for years. Even those that applied and got to stage 1 till now did not get anything.
Yeah. So it's two things.
Yeah.
Number one, we need to deliver on the promise of the right kind of political will.
Okay.
And the tone at the top. You have to mean what you say, and you have to follow through with what you say. You cannot say one thing and do something completely different. That is something which the president-elect has been very clear about. We made very specific promises to the Zambian people during the course of our campaigns, and the president-elect in this administration are going to be absolutely committed in following through with those commitments. And we'll be constantly in touch with the Zambian people to explain the progress that is being made. If there are challenges, we'll come back to the Zambian people and say, look, these are our intentions and these are the challenges. And this is how else we are proposing to navigate the challenges that we have. So, for example, people have been talking about the proposals that we have made. Towards reforming how personal taxation works, how public pensions work. Our commitments have not changed. Absolutely, they have not changed. And these are the proposals that we're going to be taking to government technocrats and say, we want to do this as a matter of delivering value for the Zambian people. Then we're going to start going through the nitty-gritties. What is possible? How can we navigate this? And so on and so forth. What we cannot do and what we will not do is to start going back on our word. Because the Zambian people are hurting right now because 10 years ago they were promised so many things and nothing has been promised. This is not going to be an administration of lies and sweet talk. We say one thing so that we can get elected, then we do something completely different because now we're in power. The people are still in charge. We are not in charge. It's the people who are in charge.
We really are.
The president-elect is not delusional about who's in charge. He knows that he cannot betray any one of you. He does that, he loses your vote. In 5 years, you are going to hold him accountable.
It's good you say
so we understand that very clearly. But the second bit, the second bit is that we have to depoliticize how government programs work. So it is not just empowerment that we need to depoliticize. We need to depoliticize social cash transfers. Is there another word for depoliticization?
No.
As in reconfiguration, recalibration?
Let's use all of them.
So we need to depoliticize how public programs work. We need to depoliticize FISP. We need to depoliticize social cash transfer. We need to depoliticize how government tenders work. We need to depoliticize government recruitment. We need to depoliticize empowerment programs.
You're making my skin crawl. You're making me happy.
Now,
And the civil service.
I'll stop there because Zach Banda from 5FM.
What does Zach want?
I hope he's listening or watching.
That's a sign that you actually remember him. Because but I won't tell him that.
Zach and I come a long way. We grew up together on the Copper Belt.
Fantastic.
He made
In
mention
Ndola,
of-
in Loboto, we used to play football together in the dust of Loboto.
That's a good story. So Zach said, he said, ask Mr. Walia, inauguration is next week, Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
But down the line, systematically every year, budget speech is about September, October. But saying that she's a new government, obviously will give you latitude for a month before we expect budget presentation. So his question is, what are you likely to prioritize in your budget? Obviously, looking at the debt issue that the country is in, the things that you've mentioned, FISP, social cash transfer, all those things going to the budget. You mentioned the FIC report, $3 billion, Ministry of Health, everything you've discussed so far. Feeds into the budget. So what will you prioritize? But also,
I also have a question
want to throw the
about the cabinet.
Yes.
Yes.
Should I go ahead and ask
him so that
okay. So we look at places.
ask him.
We look at examples. We look at examples.
Answer one question.
I love his facial expression.
I hope you remember this, but I will repeat if you do forget.
Yeah.
Right.
But we've seen examples in South Africa of shadow cabinets. You look at the Democratic Alliance or the Economic Freedom Fighters having shadow cabinets. Why didn't UPND have that in place?
How do you know we didn't have?
You never told us.
You never told us.
So
first, you answer the budget question, obviously, and then we'll talk about the cabinet.
So I know that the team is working round the clock, interfacing with civil servants and many professionals at the Ministry of Finance and across an entire host of government departments, getting feedback in and around what kind of information we need for purposes of putting together a people-driven budget. I don't want to preempt what is going to be in the budget, but what I can tell you for certainty is that the president-elect wants to prioritize the optimization of social and economic value for ordinary citizens. In other words, this budget is not going to be a budget that talks to issues here.
Right.
It must be a budget that speaks to issues here. It is the people who delivered this election victory. It is the people who delivered this change of government. The budget must speak to their needs, and it will speak to their needs. Again, I don't want to speculate. I don't want to speculate in what is going to be in there. But again, I want to assure you that the president-elect has emphasized that the budget must speak to the basic issues which the ordinary people are much concerned.
Take home, take home.
That's a pay slip when it
No,
comes.
but you have to understand that you cannot rebuild an economy where people's ability to spend is suppressed or subdued.
Very limited.
You can't. In order for people like you and I to be able to buy, we need an extra bit of discretionary income in our pocket.
Yes.
But if government is aggressively taking all of that, so we think that a one kwacha in your pocket, and in your pocket, and in my pocket, and in the pockets of every other Zambian is worth much more than a one kwacha in the coffers of government. So this is why we want to ensure that a huge chunk of money is left into people's pockets. And one way of achieving that is ensuring that the way that personal taxation is structured. Is there another word for structured?
We would keep saying reconfigured.
That personal taxation is structured ensures that we leave more money, literally, into people's pockets. The mechanics of how that is going to work and the rollout period is something which is going to be a matter for intense discussions between the new administration, officials at the Ministry of Finance, and obviously having extended conversations with our multilateral partners at the IMF and the World Bank, because remember, they'll be supporting our budgets and everything. So everything in the budget must be realistic and it must speak to real issues.
Okay, so you can jump into the shadow cabinet question now.
What's a shadow cabinet?
The shadow cabinet. If you go by the, I'm sure you know.
No, I know what a
please.
shadow.
So we never
I know
heard
what
of
a
a shadow minister. Shadow that. Of course, we used to hear chairman for education, chairman for health. So are we, can we assume that those are shadow?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have people running away from their shadows right now. We have to be careful.
Shots fired.
I'm testing some shadows.
No, but what I can tell you with absolute confidence is that the president-elect understands that in order for him to deliver maximum value in terms of leadership that responds to the needs of the people, he needs to build a team of men and women who are credible, who are qualified, and they're in touch with what the people need. Okay? So I can assure you that the team that the president-elect is going to assemble, men and women, including the youth, will be absolutely competent. You will be amazed at the names that
Are we looking
are
at
going to be
people
popping up.
who are more passionate about serving the people than making that money?
And by the way, and it's made it very, very clear. Those who think that they can go into government to make money, forget it.
He actually said that in his speech.
Yeah, because yes,
and let them know that.
no, but he actually said it that all of those who think that you can get into this new administration under his leadership for money,
allow it.
Forget it. It's not going to work.
Forget it.
It's not going to work. And he's been very, very clear that positions and appointments into his new administration are not going to be, again, politicized, because the time for politics is over.
It's long gone.
Now, this is a time for service.
Yes.
Indeed.
And to serve, you need the best brains that you can get. Some of those best brains are not going to be within your party pool.
Exactly.
So you're going to have to be gracious enough to look beyond the line and say, what else can I get?
Simply because answered my next question.
Which was because we won't ask about defectors. Because precedence has been shown before from Mwanawasa coming through all the way into ECL, where whether for an advantage in terms of numbers in parliament,
being in good books.
How is the UPND-led government going to handle defectors, especially from the PF regime, from the PF party?
There's defectors already? There's defectors. Are there defectors already?
What if they likely come?
Look, perception is everything. There is perception that
too many forgiveness issues.
There's perceptions out there based.
I'll work with the president.
Yeah, based on statements like I'm willing to work, I'm available to work. So that gives the impression that someone wants to jump ship and into.
Look,
the new regime.
No, the president-elect in this administration will be focused on just getting on with the job.
Yeah.
Our areas of conversation engagement will be on issues that deliver value for you and I and everybody else. Yeah. I'm not sure that the conversation around defectors delivers any value for all of us. If it does, we can discuss it all day long. But I don't think it does.
Another question in line with that is we learning from our neighbors, Malawi, who formed an alliance, and the alliance took them into the presidency, into government.
No,
we
have to be.
And now they're under scrutiny for certain questionable decisions.
We have to be very, very clear that it is not the alliance that took or that delivered the change of government. It is not the UPND that delivered this change of government. It's the Zambian people. We have to be very, very clear. Yeah. And we've always said that this culture of entitlement, right? Because you think, because you think you did something, so you think that you are owed something. The president-elect, hates that. He just wants people who are going to make themselves available for service and say, what can I do to serve?
And deliver. Yeah.
I told one journalist yesterday, because they were asking me the issue of what position are you going to get in government? and I told them, do you know what?
I don't know.
No, not that I didn't know. Yeah. I told them, if I'm going to be asked to go and clean toilets in this new administration, and the president-elect thinks that will deliver maximum value for you and I and everybody else, I will go and clean toilets.
I'll raise my hand, I'll follow you.
Because
I'll follow it.
Yes.
Take it from me. I'm going
Service is service at the end of the day.
Yes, because
Yeah.
the focus and what the president-elect wants is people who are focused on service, not what they think they are owed or they are entitled to. So he doesn't want people are going to be lining up saying, can I have Ministry of Finance? Can I have Ministry for Home Affairs?
What you're
Can I
attempting
go-
is a total change of mindset.
Of course it is.
You're focused more on title than actually
that
leadership.
guy that you're
and-
seeing on your
Yeah.
screens there,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
president-elect,
Yeah.
he doesn't take jokes.
That's a change of mindset.
There is something of an aura of a disciplined human being
He
about
sounds
him.
like it. He sounds like it. He
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah. Yeah.
at that press briefing.
Yeah.
All the comments that came after, and this is something I wanted to ask you: Are we going to have a change of? You did mention a change of treatment towards
Civil service.
transparency and towards giving giving information.
So by the way, and
Yeah.
I apologize
Because
for
press
cutting.
conferences
Yeah.
were few and far between.
So one of the things that we want to do, obviously for purposes of bridging the gap in the area of the flow of information between the executive, State House, and the people, is that we need to create platforms of interactions with you colleagues in the media on a regular basis, so that you can ask the critical questions on the basis of what you are hearing in the places where you're gathering news, and obviously taking these answers to communities. That is the only way that government should and must be held accountable. If government is not talking, you are creating room for toxic speculation and propaganda.
Yes.
This is something that we don't want to see under this presidency, under this new administration.
Yeah.
We have to prop up how we engage and communicate with the people of Zambia. If there are challenges, we have to be honest that, look, there's this challenge, and this is what we are actively doing to mitigate this challenge.
Yeah.
We don't want a government of lies, because lies always have short legs. You tell one lie today, tomorrow you're going to have to tell another lie to cover up for the other lie, and then a whole set of new lies come up. To be honest, the president-elect doesn't have the energy for that. I do not have the energy for that either. So we need to emphasize that. But I think there was one important issue that you touched on.
Okay.
The issue of the civil service and the kind of independence that we want to give them.
Yes.
A few days ago, I had a meeting with the PS, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Mr. Amos Malupenga. Fantastic human being and a wonderful professional as well. And I was telling him that, look, the president-elect in this new administration does not want to have any business in how the civil service works. For us, we want to play our part as politicians, provide policy direction, and leave you, the technocrats, to run with it. We don't want government unnecessarily overreaching into how civil servants execute their jobs. Because those civil servants, they serve at the pleasure of the Zambian people, not at the pleasure of politicians. And the president-elect is not interested in cracking the whip on a daily basis, telling civil servants how they should do their jobs. All that he expects and all that he's emphasizing is that if you're a civil servant, do your job professionally. When we were in opposition, that was our rallying call. When we are now the government, that should and must continue to be a rallying call, that civil servants should be left to get on with their jobs without interference, and they must be supported the right way. We need to depoliticize the civil service.
Indeed.
You cannot make appointments in the civil service on the basis of political party patronage or anything else. Civil servants must be appointed on the basis of competency. This is the same issue that we have been talking about when it comes to appointing people in diplomatic services. Don't send cadres to go and serve in diplomatic services. Do you know what? There's a lot of value that we can deliver, but we have never been able to deliver over the course of the past 10 years, because the people that we're sending in diplomatic services are basically just chilling. They wake up.
I will
chill
say,
for a bit because we need to give at least 5 minutes to our callers.
Right.
We're being told there's plenty for phone calls.
Right.
So at least we've given you Can you imagine we've spoken for 40 minutes?
Have we?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So 0961, yes, 0961 415 028 is the number to call. Each caller has 30 seconds to pose a question
30
or contribute
seconds.
to Mr. Walia. 30 seconds only.
Yeah.
We'll catch you, so we give a chance for him to answer, and we give a chance to other callers.
So we actually have some comments.
Right.
Oh,
We
there's
have
a caller already.
We have a caller. Quickly, good morning. Your name and where calling us from?
This is Uncle Kapemba from Madengo, sir.
Uncle Kapemba, 30 seconds.
Okay. Vawadi, ainende pokushapali awe no mulela and ama PSS because most of them they are cowards. Because for instance, if you look at the way the councils run, they cannot be sending to collect the revenue. So you leave such type of a PA, you as a new government, including for the Minister of Education, because what the PS from Minister of Education was saying, it was most of the time it was from Shale Pusana, not for Fifuyokuba. So they because we want to know whether you are president, this is not the direction, because the mislead. So what are you going to do about such types of people? Thank you.
Right. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Kapemba.
Kapemba.
They've started, so they'll be coming now. But go ahead and answer.
Guns blazing.
So look, the strategy of engagement, insofar as the new administration is concerned, the focus is going to be always on strengthening the capacity and the ability for institutions to function independently.
Right.
We don't want to pursue narrow interests targeting individuals because that doesn't help anybody. It will not help anybody. We need to strengthen the ability for institutions to function competently and independently. Once we do that, we will never ever have to worry about the issue that the caller just talked about.
Yeah.
Because many of these civil servants, they will tell you that, look, I was being directed to do, was it misdirected?
Yeah.
To do certain things.
I was just told I'm following instructions.
And these are people who have families, they have children to take to school, they need to provide for medical care for their families and everything.
Yeah.
So you can understand the desperation for them to keep their jobs. And in the process, they end up engaging in acts that offend the conscience and sensibilities of a whole nation. So you can understand that.
Yeah.
So as the new administration and the president-elect understands his responsibility to ensure that he follows through with the commitment to deliver expanded independence and support to the entire civil service and all institutions, including the men and women who serve in these institutions, so that they can execute their respective mandates without fear that there is a political eye looking down on them. That should never happen. That will never happen.
That's a win for us. We do have another caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
Reverend Mandui within Lusaka.
All right, Reverend, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to the nation.
Thank you.
And the president-elect. We wish you all the best and God's blessings. A quick one, because now we're doing 30 seconds question. Issue ya patronage, issues of fear in terms of public officers. Because sometimes people would want to stand up, but just like you rightly said, what assurances are we going to get from the incoming administration to ensure that people, as you are pursuing the agenda of meritocracy, where people are appointed in these offices based on their capabilities to perform in the public interest, Tabali threatened when they are carrying out their duties to the ladder? Because we always know that in any given organization, so we cannot completely rule them out. So what is your commitment and the commitment of the president-elect to ensure that people perform their duties without any interference, especially if they're doing it in public interest? Thank you.
Yeah. That's a very good question. Nakamina workshop for Nachsosa. Nachsosa Nati. This election victory, this change of government has not been delivered by the UPND and its alliance partners. It has been delivered by the Zambian people. The president-elect understands that his responsibility, his leadership obligation, is not to serve the narrow partisan interests of the UPND.
Okay.
He's the Republican president. He is not the president for the UPND and its alliance partners. So his obligation, his responsibility, even in the manner that he makes appointments must be made in the national interest, not in the partisan interest or in the interest of individuals within the party like myself who think that they're entitled to anything. No, the president doesn't owe any of us anything. He owes the Zambian people everything.
Indeed.
And the president-elect has made it very, very clear that there must be a very distinct line between the party and government.
Yeah.
We'll be running government and government agendas and government programs, not a party and partisan agendas. So I want to assure him that the president-elect has that clarity of thought, that because now our responsibility is to the country, in the manner that he is going to be making appointments, he will be appointing individuals on the basis, are you competent enough to deliver maximum value for this country and its people? He's not going to be looking at me because I've been a member of the party. The time for politics is over, and I need to mention that. The time for politics is over. Now we need to deliver leadership. We used to say that the responsibility to deliver a change of government was for the people of Zambia, and they've done their bit. The responsibility to provide leadership, to be able to rebuild the economy, deliver expanded opportunities for education, for public health care, social protection, pensions, support for agriculture, and so on and so forth, is our responsibility now. And in order for us to deliver on all of those critical promises and commitments we've been making, we need to put together a group of men and women who are competent, who are qualified, with the right kind of commitments. There will not be issues of patronage. That is not going to occur. The president-elect has been very, very clear on that issue. And if he and his administration go down that route and the wider national interest starts to get ahead, I've always said, and I've spoken on the record, I speak the way I do because I'm a Zambian. Yeah. So we'll come here and we're going to have another discussion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to read some of the comments on Facebook. Solomon Kavize Chombe says, good morning, Team S24. Mr. Walia, we want to know who planted cement to grow 48 houses and the private person who paid for the ex-minister's debts. Congratulations to all Zambians who came out in numbers to vote. Lawrence Mumba, we wish you only the sufficient grace of God. Paul, he has a long comment, but let's get into this phone call.
Yeah.
We
lost that call,
but you can go ahead.
So to be honest, I am as bemused as all of you.
No,
is there another word for bemused?
No, Mr. Walia.
Confused?
All right, we've got a phone call.
Right. Good morning. Your name, you're calling us from 25 seconds.
Hello.
Oh, lady. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and you're calling us from?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is...
Yes.
Okay, my name is Sharon Lungu. Yes. I'm one Zambian who's celebrating for the restoration of sanity in our country. Yes, I'm a mother, and I'm very, very happy that at least we are hopeful that our children will have a secure future. Again, I have a lot of contributions. It's a book, actually. But because I'm aware I've only been given 30 minutes.
30 seconds.
So let me just advise our incoming government, Mr. Walia.
Yes, ma'am.
There's this point about PACs. I would advise the UPND government, the incoming government, to be very cautious. It's not everyone that you can work with. Most of these PACs have been partisan. Okay? But let me just give you this advice. I want Kasolo or Mr. Kasolo to be restored to information. That one was one non-partisan PS. Then I want Mr. The former PS for local government to be restored as well.
Wow.
That one was fired because it was contradicting Ikaja's interests, okay, in those markets and bus stations. Please let the UPND restore Mr.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon.
I was hoping you'd mention my name there, but...
it's a book, like I said. So, Spring TV, I'm going to send you these through text, okay?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sharon.
Submit them on my behalf to Mr. Wadia.
I'll put my name at the bottom of that list.
But Mr. Wadia, from this phone call, do you see that the people are speaking out? They know what they want. They have an idea of what to expect from you.
And this is the thing. This is why the president-elect has been very clear. He's not going to take any chances because he understands that the power that has been given now has been given and delivered to him by the people. He serves at the pleasure of the people. So,
can you imagine they're not sitting back?
Yes.
They have a cabinet. The shadow cabinet we're asking about. Zambians have an idea of who they should see on that list of cabinet
the number
members.
to call is 0961 415028. I'm seeing comments on Facebook asking for the number. So 0961 415028. I'm looking at my time because we've gone past our time. But look at the guest we have in studio. So if the producer can just, in fact, we can go even up to 12 hours. Isn't it? I'm kidding, but producer, but 10 minutes so I can get at least a few more calls. Yeah, just 2 more phone calls, then I think we can start preparing for.
So before you answer, before you get into your answer, let's take this phone call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, once again.
Morning.
Your name and where you're calling from?
Tembo here from Takauke. I'm very excited to speak to Mr. Wadia today.
Fantastic, Mr. Tembo. Go ahead.
Please go ahead. Keep it short. You have 20 seconds.
Wadia, nifuna nikuuje nikuti a president mkawauje kuti mawekazi watazala wonsala 1 year osala ndila ndalama. Icho nacho tufula kuweke nzeru awalia. Maritayaliz, maseparatiz from 1999 na 2000 aliyo wapase ndalama kumendo gula mabasi kupasa wa PF. Zikomo.
Zikomo Tembo.
That is that's very straightforward.
That is a very important phone call, and I told you guys that for me this is a hugely personal issue. I told you the issue with my old man. He's not the only one. There are so many people who have died in this country without ever having seen their benefits. And these are not huge sums of money. These are tiny amounts of money. So how do I explain to former Tazara workers that there's no money for them to receive their pension benefits, but we have people stealing money every day? We're getting reports, if it's the Auditor General's report, whether it's the Financial Intelligence Center unit, whether it's independent reports by Transparency International. How do we justify that? So the president-elect understands his responsibilities and obligations to people like Tazara workers, former Tazara workers. He understands that responsibility. We don't want to see a situation like the situation that we saw. Our parents sleeping in the cold of night, in the rain, in the heat, begging and crying for their pension benefits. And this is what the president-elect means. How are we going to justify that there is no money to pay the pension benefits of our people, but there comes me, because I've been appointed as minister, I start saying I'm entitled to a VX, which is worth 2 million kwacha. That's just stupid. We can't do that.
Heartless, actually.
This is what he means when he says we need to optimize and deliver maximum value for people. We are in it to serve. We must serve.
Well, Mr. Walia, unfortunately for the viewers and for us, time is up.
Is it?
But fortunately, there are lots of questions on our Facebook page from the viewers.
So many,
and I'm sure from your own stream as well. But that's enough information for you to pack.
But can I also just say before I go that I also
want to give you that 1 minute.
Yeah.
So
I also don't know who owns the 48 houses.
Disclaimer.
So and we're hoping now that once we have delivered the right kind of independence and institutional support which our institutions of governance like the SEC, the police, the DEC need, hopefully we're going to get an answer to who owns the 48 houses.
We're looking forward to
I mean, if no one owns them, one of us might as well go and claim them.
And me.
Yeah.
Well, as we are on our way to go claim at least 1, 2, 3, 4 houses of 48.
No. Tabale 4 could have duty. No, his duty is to the people.
So it was wonderful having Mr. Anthony Walia, who is the President-elect's spokesperson.
Yeah.
Inauguration is next Tuesday. All are invited. But from the three of us, Seya, Talu, and Yoela, tomorrow is Trending Friday. So looking forward to having...
what does that mean?
Trending Friday?
Yeah.
All the trending stories.
You'll be back again tomorrow.
Because you are trending right now.
Am I?
Yes.
So we have a guest host as well.
A guest host, yeah.
Ngosa
So look out
Chungu is coming back.
Tomorrow's guest host, Ngosa Chungu. But from Spring TV, Morning Daily team, and on behalf of Mr. Walia, thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow morning.
Bye-bye.